Moving on, organized labor has given governors of the 36 states of the Federation a December the 31st deadline to conclude negotiations on the consequential adjustment of the 30,000 naira minimum wage with their state councils.
Labour says the percentages in the agreement they had with the federal government is the minimum they will accept from any state. It warns that any governor who fails to implement the new wage between now and the given date stands the risk of being impeached.
Organized labor had earlier in the month appealed to state houses of assembly to stand with workers and impeach any governor who refuses to pay the new minimum wage. Governors are yet to back down on their stance that each state will pay its workers according to their capacities. Joining us now is a public affairs analyst, Ziggy Ibe. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you for having me.
State governors are talking tough. NLC is talking tough. The NLC is demanding that state governors who do not or who are unable to make this payment be impeached and is, asking the state assemblies to ensure that this happens. How do you see this panning out?
I'm happy the fight has shifted to states. If the governors say they cannot pay, they should give us reasons why they couldn't pay.
They said they can only pay based on their capacity.
They should reduce their obstacles. They should reduce their worker strength. They should reduce how many aides that work with them and cut their expenses. Then look internally what they can generate. If actually they would work and tap in some areas where they have not worked, places where they've not worked, a way of trying to create revenue for themselves.
Generating internal
the IGR, to increase the IGR. Certainly they can pay. No state in Nigeria would confidently tell us they wouldn't be able to pay 30,000 naira as minimum wage stipulated by the government. No state. Because all the states in Nigeria are viable. The only challenge there is the money accrue to other areas that are not necessary. They should see it as a waste and channel it to pay these people who would make their work easier, because the workers make governors' work easier.
But now you said some states are not viable. So, but we have a system where all the states get their resources and get their IGR and sent to the federal, and they go cap in hand to get allocation from the federal.
Every state had advantage. Every state. They should look into areas they have comparative advantage over other states and dissipate their energy in getting their resources. No state in Nigeria will tell us they don't have what they can produce or generate to make more money or to bring more revenue to themselves.
The system will
run. What kind of system do we run that will prevent state government from generating money for themselves? Okay?
When you talk about resources now.
In this idea, every state, the problem we have is, yes, you talk about the system. The system had made it such that every state governors are lazy on their own. They wouldn't want to produce or look internally to know what they can generate to make money for themselves. Okay, what they would prefer doing is go cap in hand every month and collect allocation.
In this light,
when also they have these resources enough to generate money for themselves.
In this light, in order to pay workers' salary and pay 30,000 minimum wage, do you support restructuring?
Moving on, organized labor has given governors of the 36 states of the Federation a December the 31st deadline to conclude negotiations on a consequential adjustment of the 30,000 naira minimum wage with their state councils.
Labour says the percentages in the agreement they had with the federal government is the minimum they would accept from any state. It warns that any governor who fails to implement the new minimum wage between now and the given date stands the risk of being impeached.
Organized labor had earlier in the month appealed to state houses of assembly to stand with workers and impeach any governor who refuses to pay the new minimum wage. Governors are yet to back down on their stance that each state will pay its workers according to their capacities.
Joining us now is the public affairs analyst, Ziggy Ibe. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so looking at all of this situation now, the state governors are not backing down, Labour is not backing down, and you have advocated strikes, but going forward, how do you think this affects the average Nigerian worker?
Now that Labour had conquered the first step, which is the battle to set a template for 30,000 naira minimum wage, and the battle has now shifted to the state. They should be ready for a harder work because they are going to be fighting with the governors now. I mean, struggling to get their assent and trying to know how much they can go. It's not actually to negotiate now, but to actually having the government to accept implementing what the federal had set as a template. The labor, the organized labor should at this point get their loins because so many state governors are not ready to give in. By that, they are not, they've before now said that they had no money to pay for such amount, that their internally generated revenue is slim, including what they get from the federal allocation.
But would an industrial action make these governors bulge?
Well, what the labor should do at this point is to be ready to picket any state that refuse to pay.
Because like I said, they cannot pay. Will they be able to pay even if they're
no state in Nigeria, even if they go on no strike? State in Nigeria would religiously tell us they cannot pay.
But some states couldn't pay the 18,000 naira minimum wage.
Because they've diverted the money to something else. If what they get from the federal allocation and what they generate internally put together is channeled at paying the workers who actually bring out the beauty of their work. But they were supposed
to open their books to the organized labor. But they haven't done that. But beyond the now, because there are implications of all of this, if you cannot pay 30,000 naira and there was a struggle to even pay the 18,000 naira, what does that imply for the future of the Nigerian worker? Because every 5 years, there's supposed to be an increment.
That they could not pay 18,000 naira was not because they had no money to pay. Yes, it is because they believe that some other projects they have at hand will not be able to allow them pay that. For instance, what will make a governor of a particular state who has an airport next to his door would want to mute an idea to have another airport in a certain state? For instance, in Enugu State, or Ebonyi, for instance. Ebonyi is 45 minutes drive to Enugu. As we speak, the governor of the state is muting an idea to get
they are taking
an airport.
So projects that are irrelevant. That's what you're saying.
Phony. They are not important. It will gulp more of their money that would have been used in paying the workers.
The question I asked. So what is the implication if you're having this back and forth? We had that for 18, we had that for 30. So because there has to be a review every 5 years.
What I told you is that the labor should be ready to fight harder because the state is where they are going to have a lot of issues. Some of the governors will not allow agreeing to have the money. But they have, if actually they would be religious about this. They have the money. They can pay. They reduce their extra codes. Let them reduce the number of their staffers. Let them reduce the number of their aides. Then bring in money from where all these phony projects and all that. All of them put together will amount to a huge amount that will be enough to pay the workers. Because the workers are the beauty of any state.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Zigibe, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.